Good morning, Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and to all of you out there, wherever you may be. If you're within the sound of my voice this morning, please join us on the chorus of this song. And the words are, I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God lives. Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder, I ponder, only to realize I'm not alone. Nothing I have to do on my own. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of health and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder, I ponder, only to realize I'm not alone. Nothing I have to do on my own. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Sing it with me. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. This is the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. Sing it with me, clap your hands. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Yeah. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Oh, I am the place. You are the place. This is the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Peace and blessings, everyone. I would now like to introduce our very own Cheryl Archer. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks to our fabulous musicians Today, Kevin Cozy Arrington and Deb Santa Maria. And welcome to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, where we teach spiritual principles and practices that nourish us, uplift us, and celebrate our oneness with all of life. Welcome to those of you who are joining us on Zoom today, and a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the very first time on a Sunday morning. If you'd like to connect with us, please send an email to Constance Chapman, our administrative coordinator, at constance@oaklandcsl.org. In order to maintain a sacred atmosphere this morning, I invite you to please take a moment to make sure that your Zoom microphone and video are muted and turned off. Let's now take a moment to bless our children wherever they are. We honor all our youth and children in our community and the world. We love you. We see you. You are Spirit's gift to us. Thank you for being in our lives, and so it is. I have just a few announcements this morning. Next Wednesday, March 31st, practitioner Christopher Brown is speaking. His topic is accepting what is. Meditation is at 6:30 and the service is at 7. 3 amazing group events are happening today. The Women's Spiritual Transformation Group continues this Sunday at 12:30. Next Sunday, CALM, C-A-L-M, the Compassionate Attention to Loss Group, meets at 12:30 p.m. The theme is Love Knows No Bounds, sharing our stories of connection. Information for these and all groups are on the events page of the website. Registration for meditation is more than you think is open. If you're wanting a stronger meditation practice, this course is for you. You'll learn and experience different forms of meditation and find the one that suits you best. This 5-week class will be taught by Reverend Jerry Carter and Reverend Tony Bradford. Sign up today. Class starts April 6th for 5 weeks. The registration link is under the Classes Workshops tab on the website. If you haven't already done so, please go to the center and write your thoughts and feelings on the paper on the fence for Reverend Jeff. Also, Janine Perry has set up a beautiful altar in the social hall that you can view through the window. And as always, for information on all that is going on at the Oakland Center and our website, visit www.oaklandcsl.org. Check the Village News for links to these and other activities. And as always, for information on this and everything going on at the center, once again, the website is www.oaklandcsl.org. We have many more groups, ministries, and events happening here at the Center for Spiritual Living. I invite you to check the website. This is information central during this time of cyber connection. Please read along with me as I read our vision and mission statement. The vision of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living is to joyfully reveal the love and oneness of God. We are a welcoming and inclusive spiritual community dedicated to individual transformation and collective growth. Our purpose is to love, inspire, and serve our community and the world through education, music, prayer, and play. And so it is. I'd now like to introduce practitioner Regina Buckwalter.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as we are in this very sacred time on so many levels besides Passover and Palm Sunday. The first reading is Michael Bernard Beckwith. Visioning is always for self-transformation. It's always to shift our perception of reality. This process goes on forever. We just become bigger and bigger places for it to express through. The second reading is by Emily Caddy. There is something about the mental act of Thanksgiving that seems to carry the human mind far beyond the region of doubt into the clear atmosphere of faith and trust, where all things are possible. And as we sit or relax this morning, we feel the light. We feel light moving through us as the breath is the connection to the light. As we soften into our bodies, feeling the breath arise, the very gentle inhale and exhale is spirit moving through us. The breath is not just something that we tune into because we think it's a good thing. The breath is spirit. We are one with God. We are one with that spirit, and we feel it in our bodies as we attune to the divine presence moving through us. The breath is light. And as we feel that breath moving through us and we ground in our bodies and we are present with ourselves, we feel spirit, we breathe, that light illuminates our vision. And in that state of calmness, in that state of infinite possibilities, in that state of divine presence, we are calm. We feel the goodness of God. There is no doubt. There are no fears. And the light moves through us, and we feel it, and we celebrate it. And our visions open to infinite possibilities, as God is just that, the field of infinite possibilities. And we say yes to it during this very sacred time. The sacred time of resurrection, the sacred time of celebration, the sacred time of transition. As we celebrate the life of Reverend Jeff during this sacred time, as we release and let go and embrace our community during this sacred time, the foundation that he has created for us allows for more possibilities to show up in this community. And we celebrate this day. We celebrate the vision that is now opened to us, a new vision for us. And we stand firmly on that foundation, and we breathe and we feel and we know the light of God is moving through us and within us as we connect to this community during this sacred time. And I just release my word into the very sacred law that keeps saying yes to us. Keep saying yes to the light. Keep saying yes to the unconditional love that is pouring through us during this sacred time. Pouring through every single cell of our body, radiating and emanating out into the community with this new light of our vision for us all. And I give thanks knowing these truths. Such a time of great gratitude. And I rest in that. And I let go. And I let God. And so it is. Amen. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Kenneth Cozy Arrington and Deb Santa Maria. Thank you.
I'm lost in your eyes, found in your smile, happy to say you'll stay for a while. Forever will be not long enough, lost in our dreams, found in our love. I lost track of time, the time move at all, found in your touch, so easy to fall. The sound of your sigh, the touch of your hand, falling so fast, a safe place to land. I found in you safe ground, in you I said my prayers, then you were there. I only know I'm safe and sound because in you I'm found. I'm lost in a daze, floating in space, anchored by love, found in your face, hearing you say, be who you are, shine like the light, bright as the stars. I rest in your words, I echo the same. We speak with no sound, our heartbeats remain. If there was a doubt, it's all been removed. Found in your heart, there's nothing to prove. I found in you safe ground, in you I said my prayers, and you were there. I only know I'm safe and sound because in you I'm found. I was a missing person with everyone before, hiding my disguises, so prepared for war. Not anymore. I found I'm safe and I'm sound because in you I'm found. I would now like to introduce our own beloved, look at him smiling right there, Mr. Andrew Robinson. You got it, Andy.
I'll take the sun. So thank you so much, Cozy. Thank you so much, Deb. You are, I hope you know what a gift you are to this community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We're going to have an unusual Sunday morning as our beloved community enters a new chapter, knowing not where it's going to take us. We get to kind of let go of all of our assumptions about things. And so we're going to address one very minor question this morning. What is a practitioner? Just start from scratch and see where we find ourselves. And towards that end, we have an incredible trio of practitioners I am going to be worked with to address this question. Just give me a second. I have an issue here, and I have to speak to it. I'm going off script, but I have an integrity issue that I have to address right now. There is a condition that exists within our community in relation to the practitioners and everybody else. We basically have carried for years a secret, and I'm going to break the bonds of that secret and share with you. So I'm just going to say it. Every practitioner goes through 4 years of study, 2 years, everything's all happy, and then you go into the oven, and you've got your papers, and you've got your tests, and you've got your thises, and you've got your that's, and then finally you have an oral panel, and you're informed that you're about to become a licensed practitioner. What nobody knows, I don't care how far-fetched this sounds, I'm here to tell you the truth today. What happens in that moment that practitioner is being licensed, a button is pushed in the home office. I'm not kidding with you. A button is pushed in that home office, and at the moment that button is pushed, that practitioner is released of all the entanglements of the human condition. We have no more psychological aspects. We have no issues whatsoever. And so there's an incongruity here because we walk amongst you as if we were of you, but the truth is, oh, and by the way, the same is true of the ministers, only their button is bigger. All right, I made it up. A little early April Fools. So the truth of the matter is that we are of the schlubs. We are as human as anybody. So are the ministers. What a big surprise. And so it raises a question then, what in fact is a practitioner? And also what we call practitioner consciousness. And towards that end, I would like to invite our panelists into this space, starting with Alena Hutchinson, who recently graduated and has been a licensed practitioner. How long now, Alena?
Since July.
Since July. Yeah, and she's barely gotten involved at all. I would also like to invite Eliza Young, one of my classmates of many, many years ago. Eliza, are you there? Okay, so in the interim, why don't we invite our third and esteemed colleague, Dodie Chaney-Fernandez, into this space. Hi, Dodie.
Hello.
Okay, so if Eliza reappears, whoever's doing the spotlight, please bring her into the fold. Up there she is.
Hello.
We are complete now. Okay, so the question on the table is a small one, as we discussed this morning. It's, What's a practitioner? We can cover that in a couple of minutes. Who would, and the other spin that we were putting on it today was, given the time that we're in and that we're all sharing and all caring, how has your time with Reverend Jeff, each in your different ways? Alena, you were in his classes. Everybody had a different experience of him. How has that impacted, affected, whatever you have to say? Dodie, why don't we start with you? Is that okay?
Sure.
Please.
I found Reverend Jeff to be warm and caring and funny. And I really experienced two very nice compliments from Reverend Jeff. The first one is he always told me that he loved to hear me pray. And that made me feel really good because Reverend Jeff hears a lot of prayers. And the second one is the Circle of Prayer. We've been meeting for years, every Monday. Dorothy, Louise, Karen, Joyce, and Jesse. And we've met so often, so long, that we actually celebrate each other's birthday. So shortly after Reverend Jeff came, he was invited to one of our little birthday celebrations. And he paid me the highest compliment because it was my 70th birthday. And he said, "You were in your 40s. I loved it." There are two other incidents that I've had with Reverend Jeff. Once I was picking up a friend of mine we were somewhere in my car, and I had this on this car seat on the passenger side. She picked up the tape and she says, "Who's this?" I said, "Oh, that's our new minister, Reverend Jeff." Nice picture, Reverend Jeff. Full head of black hair. It's a nice picture. She said, "I have to come visit your church." Oh, Reverend Jeff doesn't look like that. So I came to church and I shared that with him. And he said, "Back in the day." So, and the last one is, it's a little different because one morning my husband and I had an appointment early in Berkeley. And we were driving to Berkeley, driving home, and I was reading my email coming from the appointment. And for all of you that may not know, the practitioners got hacked about 3 years ago. There was a email on my email. "Good morning, Dodie. Really nice, coming just from Reverend Jeff, really gentle, like, Dodie, I want to ask you to do a favor for me. Would you, I have a widower that I want to buy her, get some kind of gift. I'm not remembering it well because it's 3 years ago, but I need you to get $300. It told me, this email told me how to get it, go and get it in which denominations and everything. So I read it to my husband. I said, "Honey, can we do this?" And he said, "Yeah." So we stopped at Safeway on the way from this appointment and bought these gift certificates, and they told me where to send them and how to send it. I did it all. And by the time I got home, which is in East Oakland, we had gotten a notice from Constance that Reverend Jeff never sent this email to anyone. Now, it was a shocking thing, but it happened to me and nobody else got burned. I was the only practitioner. And we actually followed through with a police report and called Visa and did all the things we could do to try to recuperate it, but it never happened. I'm just saying that to say those were because I thought about the things that I've interacted with Reverend Jeff about. So those were the ones that came to mind. I will miss him. I found him to be a warm and sharing and caring person, very approachable. So I miss him sincerely.
Thank you, Dodie. Just take a second with that. Thank you for opening your heart like that. So Eliza, since we're talking to the effect Reverend Jeff may have had in terms of your life, in terms of your practice as a practitioner, would you like to share?
Yes, I would. I found it just very easy to work with Jeff and play with him. Like as Dodie said, he was very kind and loving and funny. And sometimes you'd be at this difficult moment and he would just say something real silly, or he would make an expression on his face, or he'd say, "Well, how's that working for you?" And even when it was difficult, it was easy to work with Jeff. I remember he asked me one time, I think this was maybe about the second year he had been here. He asked me to be on the board, and he said, "Oh, I think you'd be really good at that." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, why?" And I wish I had written down what he said at that moment, because he just said all these beautiful things about me, like, wow, really? Anyway, I wasn't ready to be on the board. And I said, "Well, Jeff, he said, you'd be so good at it." And I said, "Well, I'm good at cleaning toilets, but that doesn't mean I should be a house cleaner." And he said, "Okay, point taken, maybe this is not for you to do right now." And then, years later, I wanted to be on the board, and the nominating committee said, "No, we have everybody we need, why don't you be on the practitioner leadership corps?" And so I did that for a while, and I wasn't that good at that, but everybody loved me up and put up with me anyway. And I just, I loved being TA in his classes. It was just so fun. And he was so brilliant. He just really could work the room and all the people in there. And the other thing that I really appreciated about Jeff, when he first came here, he really talked about Siva, about sacred service. And for me, sometimes, most of the time when I did service, it was something that was fun, but sometimes I was just doing it to get the attention, or just because I felt like I had to. And Jeff really educated me that, you need to do it because it's something you're called to do, and that you bring your joy to it all the time, and work on that. If you're not having a joyful moment, to pray towards that and work to bring your joy to the service. And that made my service even deeper. It was just so easy to serve with him. And I never felt like he expected more than I could give.
That's so beautifully stated, Eliza. Thank you. And Seva is such an integral part, if not the business of practitioner consciousness. So thanks for pointing that out. And I'm sure Robert appreciated your equating serving on the board with cleaning toilets. Not sure what the board is going to do for future enrollment processes, but so Elena, would you share?
Well, you talked about Jeff teaching our practitioner classes, and he actually was only able to do a little bit of that while I was there. And I've only served as a practitioner under Reverend Jeff. But when I think about my thoughts of him going forward, I think about, what do I want to carry from that? And it's about who he was as a spiritual leader. It was like his humility, how he could always laugh about his own little foibles and quirks, and then you could laugh about yours and you could laugh about them together and that sort of thing. He had enormous empathy and great listening skills, and that seemed to be like part of a bigger thing where he just made everybody around him feel so valued and so valuable. Like whether it was you were making a comment in class, or in the Wednesday satsang, or if you were going to him with a suggestion for how we could do things bigger or better here. He always seemed to kind of take what you were saying, and I've said this before, he would just wrap it in something bigger, and make each person who spoke in class or wherever feel like their particular contribution was valuable. If you worked with him, he seemed like he always made sure that you knew how grateful he was for you. And it was just wonderful to work with him. He had this great self-awareness and self-discipline and connection to spirit. I remember one time, the only time I've seen this, we were in class, there's a little bit of a conflict. At one point somebody said something, he got a little bit defensive. And then I saw him self-correct immediately. Like the conversation went on, and I see Jeff look at the ceiling, and he's processing in Jeff time. So it seems like it's going on forever. I'm sure it was less than a minute. He's just staring at the ceiling. I was like, what is going on in there? And when he came back, he just looked at the person and was there with such presence and openness and open-heartedness, and was the whole conversation was then about what do you need, and it was
There you
just
go.
beautiful to watch that.
There you go.
I am going to be forever grateful. This is where I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be really grateful for the like the beginnings of the friendship, but also the real just amazing mentoring relationship I felt like I had with him. Everybody, I think, has had that experience of, like in your work life or whatever, wishing for a mentor, looking for a mentor. And he was always one who approached me. Like, what do you want to do as a practitioner? Let's talk. What do you want to do if you go to ministerial school? We had all these email threads going of projects, and stuff. And he always was there with that yes.
Yeah.
And, be like, yes, and let's go bigger. Or sometimes even just, yeah, I don't know what to do about that, but let's keep thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that it seems like he really embodies that idea you hear sometimes about the servant leader, the person who has the vision and then empowers everybody around them to catch their own vision and ask what they need to do it and that sort of thing. And I was walking down, was it Monday after he made his transition, I'm walking down the hall of my house with my phone in my pocket, and Spotify decides to turn itself on. And it was a song from an album I haven't heard in like a year. And it was a song about death. And it had a lot of the themes that Reverend Jeff loves. I'm gonna lay this body down by the riverside. His favorite quote, it seemed like, was that Ram Dass thing that we're all just walking each other home. I heard that from him over and over again. And they talked about that in the song, about walking home. So yeah, I know he wanted to be part of, I heard it from him in words. He wanted to be part of whatever journey I went on as a minister. I know he gave other people that feeling, and he wanted to be part of their journeys. And I will always take, that model of leadership that he was with me. And I will always be grateful that, to use the metaphor, that I got to walk a little bit of the way with him. So that's all.
So beautifully stated, Elena. Thank you. Yeah, I used to say he was a nuclear listener.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it was. You just open those ears and there you would go. Anywhere he was, anywhere in the world. So thank you for those sharings. So now to move on to a much smaller subject, Dodie, maybe we can start with you. What does practitioner mean to you?
It's a growth process. I have been I've attended that church to experience the services under 4 ministers. Dr. Moen, I'm blocking on Reverend Margaret, Reverend Joan, and Reverend Jeff. And under all the 4 ministers, Reverend Margaret used to always say to all of us that they're saying the same thing 1,000 different ways. So the idea that God is our life, that God is all that there is, that we're one with God, they say it and try to bring it forth in a way that I'm assuming is not completely boring to us, but a way that can open us up stronger. So as a practitioner, I've done lots of affirmation, treatment, and meditation. And in this last year, with Reverend Tony and Reverend Sally mentioning, I didn't hear Reverend Tony. I heard Reverend Sally say ATM, and we think automatically money, but they're using affirmation, treatment, and meditation. And I actually love that because those are the tools that we use. And in that we use those tools, if you think of it, affirmation, treatment, meditation, and then you think about an ATM machine or the bank as God, as the all-powerful. And we know that when we go to the ATM machine, we always take our money out, double check it to see it was accurate, and put it in a safe place. Well, basically, as a practitioner, we're doing that with our affirmation, treatment, and meditation. We trust that we're expressing this to God and that God is responding to us. So whatever it is that we're treating for, meditating on, or affirming, the God power and the God presence is expressing. So in that there's a term, I was brought up Baptist. So in the Baptist church, there are lots and lots of spiritual spiritual verses that they say over and over again. And we don't do a lot of that, but some of them come back to me when I'm trying to do my affirmation, treatment, and medication. God is all that there is. And in the Baptist church, we always used to say, He performeth the things that are for me to do. We should also used to say, if God be for me, who can be against me? Things like that would bring me into, I love religious science. I love the way it's spelled out, very plain and open. So as I move forward as a practitioner, I'm able to read and trust and accept that the presence and power of God is right where I am. I love that. I love that God in me as He is me. And I'm open and receptive to that truth. So there's a saying, a scripture that says, pray without ceasing. And we say, acknowledge Him in all thy ways. Now, if you're praying without ceasing, that is really acknowledging Him in all thy ways. So some of my Baptist verses come back into play in religious science. It allows me to remember that the life I live is God expressing. And I love that. I think that as we move forward as practitioners, saying these verses and dwelling all of this within us, trying to make sure that we reflect it as a being, it allows us to be stronger, wiser, more fulfilled as we move through life. I hope that's the way you understand my acceptance of being a practitioner. And in that I do this for myself, I accept this for other people. So it's easier for me to, when I pray with them for treatment, be able to say for them the truth that I believe that is revealing itself through me is the truth for them.
Wow.
And so it is.
Oh, Dodie.
So it is.
Dodie.
Yes.
And as you started that, when you were talking specifically about practitioner, it evokes that phrase, ever evolving, ever evolving, ever evolving, ever evolving. So we're getting a little tight on time, but there's so much richness happening here. Eliza, do you have more you'd like to express about being a practitioner or anything of that nature?
Wow. I really thank you so much, Dodie. That was beautiful. And so I would just like to say, Reverend Joan taught me it's someone who practices. And as Andy said earlier, we go through this whole process of being licensed. And then we just continue. And I do, my goal is to pray without ceasing. I don't achieve that every day, but I do try to know in every moment that every single moment, every single thing, it is all God. It has to be. There just can be no other. And that's a wonderful thing to feel and experience. And so the ATM, the affirmations, treatment, and meditation that Dodie spoke about helps me with that. And I have other physical practices also, of just dancing or singing or walking meditation that aren't really emphasized a lot in Science of Mind, but I know that there's just ways that I feel connected. And I sometimes create rituals for myself when I'm really stuck somewhere, which is not, I don't know where that came from. I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up going to church at all. I did go to a friends meeting school. Some people call them Quakers. And so we did have meeting for worship once a week. And they taught me that there's that of God in everyone. But what I learned here was that God is all there is in everyone. And there's no more God in me than there is in anybody else.
Beautiful.
So that's all I have to share right now. I want Elena to have a
Yeah, no,
moment.
that was beautiful. That was really beautiful, Eliza. Well, Alena, I'm going to, surprise, surprise, throw you a little curveball. Um, so here's the question I have for you. At this stage in your process, you're into ministerial studies, you're a practitioner for a certain amount of time, we know your pursuits of the past, etc. Looking from the point you find yourself now, what do you understand about the practitioner consciousness that you had long before you ever heard the term?
Mm.
Yeah, I may I may throw you a little curveball because I do want to say one thing before I answer that. I spent a lot of time in the church. I'm going back to nuts and bolts. I spent a lot of time in the church as a congregant and not a practitioner. And one of the things I noticed was how mysterious the whole practitioner thing is. That, for years, Robert and I have talked about this. That was the most mysterious thing. What's a practitioner? What does that actually mean? And so I think about the outward signs that people kind of don't know a lot about. That you mentioned the 4 years of classes, the exams, that you get licensed to teach those certified classes, to do the one-on-one sessions with people that can be like upper room, go into a little more depth, to that we're actually clergy and can do weddings and all that stuff. Most people don't know that we're required to do like 100 hours or more a year of volunteer work. And we have amazing volunteers who are not practitioners, but the practitioners also do a lot to keep the center going. So I'm just aware of like wanting what the practitioners do on that outside level, that kind of nuts and bolts level, to be in people's awareness. And then there's the inside, which you're asking about, and which Dodie and Eliza talked about. I think you're talking about the practitioner consciousness that's always there. It's not, that connection to God is not new when we become a practitioner. Hopefully we increase our awareness of it. We're more consciously aware of it on a daily basis. We're doing those daily spiritual practices to keep that in our awareness, to do what Dodie was saying, like pray without ceasing. And I remember one moment when the last thing I'll say is when I was thinking about becoming a practitioner, and I was standing in the church one day before church, realizing as a practitioner, I'm and have a certain role. I might be, the PA or the meditator. But even if I don't have a role that day, I'm showing up in church as a practitioner, because my charge is to take that consciousness and make it part of my conscious awareness, to be holding the church, the center, everybody in it, in their highest and best, and to be hopefully holding a consciousness that brings out not only the goodness that we have there, but all the goodness that just is there right now in potential, and just holding that in our minds all the time. So that's your question.
No, that's great. And really what we're talking about individually and collectively is the call. And of course, you don't need to be a licensed practitioner to have a call. Everyone has a call. The only thing that varies is the degree to which we answer. And I want to thank the three of you. You have done such an incredible job today of speaking from your hearts, from your experiences, from your wisdom, and sharing with our beloved community in this very, very, very special time. And that said, I think Dodie is going to take us into prayer.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much. Oh, good morning, Agape family. Don't you just feel like you just want to snuggle in? It just feels so family. Anyway, and that is because Agape Bay Area values and
This
celebrates
is very
diversity.
interesting what is going on here. Talk about some crossed wires. So we're doing our thing, and Dodie, if you would please take us into prayer.
Let's take a deep breath. And let it go. giving thanks that there is only one life. That life is God. That life is within, around, and through each of us. We're divinely blessed, divinely guided, uplifted this day, knowing that right and perfect action is taking place in our life, knowing that whatever needs to be revealed to us is revealed in a manner that we understand and accept. We're open and receptive to God's good, revealing itself in our lives, in every area of our life. We're open and receptive to his kindness, his generosity, his warmth, his understanding, his wisdom, revealing itself in, around, and through us at all times, letting go of anything that's blocking us from our good, knowing that this has been a fabulous service, that what we spoke and know that God speaks through us, that his truth is being revealed on every hand, that we continue to grow and expand in understanding and acceptance of the one life that we live as God. For all of this good and so much more, I give thanks for it, and I let it be so, and so it is.
So continuing in this consciousness, I want to give thanks and attention to this month's nonprofit partner, Prescott Circus Theater, whose mission is to empower and engage youth as they develop confidence, teamwork, perseverance, artistic talent, and dedication to working for success through training and unique curriculum and safe environment. And I include in our prayer our Mother Earth, gratitude for her beauty and resilience, and our increasingly mindful stewardship of her. I bless our youth and the youth of the world, knowing that they are guided by the loving mind and heart of spirit. I'm blessing those in service, creating a world that works for everyone. Love and comfort and healing for all those impacted by challenges in whatever form. For Lelia Phyllis and Volme Wallace, for Samuel C., Mr. and Mrs. John Russell and family, Peter Chang and Dodie Baker, and all those who are impacted by weather of any kind and COVID-19. I speak a word for those who made their transition, our beloved Reverend Jeffrey Anderson, knowing that he is going easily and effortlessly on his journey, and for his friends and family, for the Oakland Center community and beyond, for Blake Kilkenny and the Morgan family. And I invite all of you to speak your own name if you wish to be included, and the names of your friends and family that you wish to include in this prayer, knowing that all are blessed, that God meets all our needs in the perfect timing. We are so grateful for this. We are so grateful for our community and all those who have served in our community, come today to bring their consciousness, their love. We give thanks for this and the more, and release it to the law that says it is done, it is so. And so it is.
Thank you. Elena.
So it is us moving into our sacred giving time now. We give out of gratitude for what we've received here. We give as an outward demonstration of our faith, and knowing that it comes from an endless supply.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to do our giving affirmation. And it says, please feel free to read along with me if you're muted. This gift I give is God in action. It does good work in the world, and it blesses creation. And now I'm going to turn this back to our wonderful pulpit assistant practitioner, Regina Buckwald.
Just 1 second before you go.
Oh, sorry, the text. Haven't done this before.
It's
Yes,
okay.
I lost my visual cue there, but there it is. We have many ways to give. There's a donate button on the website. There's an address if you love the old way of giving, the continuing way of giving, of sending a check. And for those of us who like to text, there's a number there where you can text your donation. And hopefully that covers all the ways people would like to give.
Regina.
And now, Regina.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow, at the end of the service, the time just went by so quickly. And I want to thank everybody that showed up today, came and supported the service. Alena, Eliza, Dodie, thank you for your contribution and letting us all in on your experiences with not only Reverend Jeff, but what it means to be a practitioner in this community. And thank you, Andy, for your graceful facilitation. Also, thank you for our wonderful musicians, Cozy and Deb. Wow, great sound, very silky, smoothie sound from Cozy and Deb. Really, really liked it. Very soothing to the heart. And everybody else on this team and everybody that showed up, the IT people and the community that came in and were part of this very sacred time as we continue to celebrate and transition into our new alignment, whatever that will look like as we vision and allow the light to direct us. And Zoe is going to be hosting the prayer room after the service. So if you want to hang around and get a prayer, there will be practitioners that are there to serve you and be with you. And if you want a prayer, you can go to the oaklandcsl.org, and a practitioner can also serve you if today is not a good day to hang in there and wait, or even do both. You know, we love to pray, and that's what we're here for mostly. So our closing affirmation for the day is, I relax and behold God's grace unfolding as my life. And so it is. Okay, Cozy and Deb, it's your time to continue with some most beautiful music that you have been doing all morning. Thank you.
Okay. Quickly, a couple of things I want to share about Reverend Jeff. Remember when the 4 Sundays when all of the ministers were given a Sunday to kind of audition for the gig? Well, my group and I were there that Sunday. And the very first Sunday after being appointed, my group and I, the Traveling Voice and the Sounds of Joy, were there that Sunday. So we've always had a very strong connection to Reverend Jeff. He would always embrace us and talk to us individually and say very wonderful, meaningful, blessed things. And he would always come in on the Sundays that we sang, stand in the back of the church and listen to us rehearse for a while. And we marveled at how after that, somehow the songs that we were singing, he incorporated into his sermon that day. So I just wanted to share that he's always been special and always will to myself and the Sounds of Joy. Yes. Okay, please now join with me as we sing the closing congregational song, Om Shanti. Yes. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, 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 Om. Peace inside my mind. God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind. God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my mind. God, only God is moving me. Peace inside my mind. God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Om. 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 Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Peace inside my heart, God and only God is moving me. Peace inside my heart, God and only God I live to see. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, 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 Shanti, Om. Let there be peace in my mind. Let there be peace in the earth. Peace and blessings, everyone. Remember to love more and judge less. Be blessed.
Thank you, Cozy. So everybody
Thank
want to
you.
come on? We always like to hang out. We're going to try something a little different today. Just take a couple of minutes if you have it and you're so inclined. We've done some sharing from our position in the service today, but we want to kind of open this up to everyone in the community. Obviously, we'd want to keep it brief, but is anybody called to share anything about what Reverend Jeff has meant to you in your own unfoldment? Anybody who wants to share? And if so, just go ahead and do it.
He was the most gentle yet wise, non-judgmental leader that I have experienced to date. He had a way of just cajoling you into doing your highest and best because he allowed you to be you and express from a very high place. He was also hysterically funny. Some of his facial expressions when he was talking, or when even when he you were complaining about maybe something that was going on at the center, he always brought humor to it. He would say, "Now, is that right?" Wonderful human being.
Beautifully stated, Cheryl. Thank you. And I want to point out we are going to be doing the prayer room soon, but we're just taking a moment for this. Also, we're building a list. Janine's keeping a log of our favorite Jeff expressions. Mine happens to be, "Oh, honey." Right? So anybody else have anything they want to share? What's anything on your heart?
That's a good one.
I see Freya's there. I know she loves to say something.
Hi.
Hi, Freya.
Hi.
Is there anything you'd like to share?
I'd like to share that let's see if I can get closer to the mic here.
We can hear you.
Okay. Reverend Jeff, by his being there at OCSL, I feel like I had permission to be myself. So I'm finally starting to like show up in the world, and I've as most of you know, I have a passion for loving the earth and caring for the earth. And he, like someone else said, I just felt so met by him about that. And I think it may have also been something that he loves, but it was, I felt like, oh, wow, I can actually speak this. And I learned to speak it in a loving way instead of like judging and shaking my finger at us humans. And so it's just been such a gift for me in opening up my life and being a part of the world, spiritual living in the world.
Oh,
So
it's a beautiful share. Thank you, Freya. Anybody else?
Hi. Hello, brother.
Hi, Janine.
Oh, wow. I'm pretty blown away by today. Nobody told me this was the format. And, oh, God. He is so proud. He's so proud of this village. And I kept telling him, you know, you have a lot to be proud of, Jeff. I wish you would focus more on that. But he was so humble and he always just wanted to do more. And now I know, and I can state this in all of my knowing, that we will continue what he has started at this village. Everything we do will be in his honor. And we will do it with the same kind of grace and humor and overwhelming love that he has for life. He loved being a human. Oh, it was hard for him to let go of being a human. He lives through all of us now. It's massive. So I can't thank you guys enough for today. The way that you showed up in this new way. It's like, wow, what a beautiful idea. Might have been his. Because he's so brilliant. I was honored to have a partnership with him. It's hard, I can't really put words to it. It's gonna take a while for me to kind of really share it. And I hope it does. I hope I can share it piece by piece with you guys.
We
And
feel it. We feel it.
yeah. And it's about nature, you guys. I'm really immersing myself in nature right now. It's where I'm finding the most healing. That and surrounding myself with the people that I love, and that we can continue to have these kind of conversations about God, about that God is all there is and that love is the greatest power. Those are the conversations that we need to continue to have. And today was a beautiful example of that, Andy. And Dodie and Eliza and Alena. Beautiful. All of you. Thank you so much. My heart is so big and I'm so open at the top.
Yeah,
Love you all.
are. Yeah,
I
you
love
are.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you for opening your heart that way. It's amazing.
Mwah, mwah. Love you all.
We all love you. Thank you for sharing those tender, intimate connections as it can inform all of us in our own process. Anybody else have anything they want to share? I see Alice hand up.
You know, I have had a hard time putting words to all my feelings about Jeff passing, but what's coming to me right now is I always felt like Jeff walked alongside of us. He grew with us. He learned with us. He shared with us. He was right in the thick of it all with us. I never felt like always felt like he was always urging us on. You know, it didn't feel like he was a kind of minister that was like up high on a pedestal, or no, he was down in the dirt and the nitty gritty with us and showed us he really lived his example. He tried to live his example for us. And I love the way he writes.
Yes.
Has the gift of the word. And it's just so beautiful. We're so lucky. We're so blessed. And we're so lucky we have each other. And
That's
he wanted us to know we always have each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful piece there, Alice, and I thank you so much. And we can just let that resonate for a second. We have each other. Yeah. Thank you, Alice. Anybody else want to share?
This is Christine. I just want to briefly share. I love so many things about Jeff, but one of them is that he gave all of us permission to be and to share our strengths. We talked a lot about youth stuff. And I remember when I came into OCSL, it's the oldest congregation I've ever been a part of. I've typically been a part of younger conversations. And I remember that you guys have crazy long prayers at the end of service. And I remember talking to Jeff, I'm like, why are we always blessing the people that are dying? What about the youth and the people who are, giving birth? And so he and I had a conversation, and that's when we included the prayer for the youth in the prayer at the end. And that was something that I talked to him and he translated. And I'm always grateful for him. He was such a supporter of youth and families, and I will miss him so much. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Somebody, Iceland.
Oh, Ice Angel Kim.
Ice Angel.
I don't know why it comes up like that. It's Camellia.
Hey, Camellia, how are you doing?
Hi. Okay. I just love hearing so much more about Reverend Jeff than I knew with everyone's comments, and then learning the things that I thought, other people felt as well. What I want to add to what everyone's saying, and thank you, practitioners, and great moderating, Andy, is the fatherly aspect. I didn't know what it was until I started listening to the comments today, but I just wanted to convey how Reverend Jeff always looked at me through his eyes, through my eyes. It was never a casual, oh, hello, thank you, or I go to shake his hand after the service, or have a question to ask him at lunch, at the brunch, or whatever. He was always looking deeply, and I felt so validated, well validated for what all that means. And as a lot of you spent a lot of time with him, and I've been imagining what could that have been, because my times with him were not long and in projects and solving problems. That just must be awesome, because the little bits that I experienced just, I felt deeply, and I didn't take it casually. And then today, as I was trying to put these thoughts together, I came up with the fatherly aspect of him, and however we interpret father, but my father, I always listened to me, and I don't get that kind of listening, you know, in day-to-day life, or even through the ages of my life. It's rare that, you know, somebody really listens to you with their eyes and their spirit. So that was my contribution about Reverend Jeff.
That's so great, Camelia. And of course, there's no math in these things. And I mean, in the human endeavor, being seen is not a small deal. So thank you for that sharing. I'm wondering if any one of our staff ministers, or God forbid, the person who was his alternate wife, Constance, do you have anything to share?
The wife without the never mind. Okay.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much, but what keeps coming to me is I just want to read a little part of a poem that I wrote when I was in my 40s, and it comes back to me a lot. And it says, "Death is the ultimate trickster. She opens a door we have no choice but to enter into worlds we can only imagine or not. Death responds neither to logic or reason or the most cogent of political analyses. Death only ignores my every want and need, cares only for stealing someone or something precious from me. Yet while I'm focused on death's scorn, she leaves me a gift. The gift is always of self." And I think that, and my sense is that for Jeff, it wasn't just of self for each one of us. It was a village for all of us. And, you know, and so, you know, we did a lot of dancing around each other, because when he first came, I was the education coordinator, and I had great plans, and he wanted to go slow and I wanted to go fast. So we did a lot of dancing. And that dancing continued when I became the operations administrative coordinator. And it took me a while before, because I always felt like as a practitioner, that I had to sort of not confront him. Well, I got better at confronting him later on. And sometimes he took it, and sometimes he just would go, "Oh my God, you mean I've got to put that on my plate to look at now too?" You know, so it was and I miss him.
Yeah. Let's just take a moment of silence, because we all have our piece of what Constance is expressing and feeling right now.
So, so I just know that as the weeks and the months go on, more and more of those gifts are going to reveal themselves.
Absolutely.
We couldn't even imagine.
Absolutely. Beautifully stated. So anyone from our staff ministry that wants
Andy,
to
this is
express something? Oh, Susan, please. Susan, go ahead.
I think what the greatest gift that I've experienced with Reverend Jeff, like everybody says, his listening skills and his openness to listen to whatever is coming up for us individually and as collectively as a community. But the greatest gift is his idea of sanctuary. And it is in that expression that I rest, because I always felt sheltered by the love and the expression of sanctuary that he gave us. And as I felt sheltered by him in his love, I know it is in this moment that he is sheltered by our love. For there is, as he has always said, that love is the greatest power of them all. And I know that's definitely for me what remains, what stays, what embraces me. The idea that he loved, even when there was disagreement, even then there is a back and forth of, let's do this now, let's wait on this, that's on my plate, whatever. But it was always always in the sanctuary of love. And I consistently receive that gift in remembrance of who he is for me.
Yeah.
And I love him. And like Constance said, I miss him.
Oh,
Thank you.
Sweetie, sweetie, sweetie. It's such an important point in terms of his legacy, because those of us who were involved in the beginning of his tenure know that that was his conscious intention. He didn't come to the community with an agenda. He came to the community with open eyes and open ears. We all know it because he came, checked with all of us. And what he recognized was a community that needed, first and foremost, just all the beautiful things that Susan expressed, was to reclaim sanctuary for us individually and collectively. And thank you so much for pointing that out. Thank you, Susan.
And I have one more thing to say. His greatest gift to me as a practitioner, he would always say, well, what is your job as a practitioner? What is your job? And the answer is to pray. That's our job.
Thank you. Thank you for extending
So many
that
wonderful, wonderful moments.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sweetie. So, anybody else? How are we doing? How is everybody?
I'll say something.
Oh, good.
Hi.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, OCSL community. So I'm gonna say Camelia, I think spoke earlier. She mentioned about the father, looking at it from in that perspective, and that really resonates with me. And actually, I think one of the things that was healed for me coming to OCSL and having this male minister was my past experiences with male ministers. They stole money from the church. It wasn't like bad for me personally. They stole money from the church, and then there was other stuff, bad stuff at another time. And so my trust of kind of looking at ministers was very skeptical. And it really changed my perspective and looking at a spiritual leader as a human. And another thing Camelia mentioned was the way he looked at you.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw you, and he delighted in your you-ness. And I will forever cherish that and forever remember that look.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Oh, Maureen, thank you. I see that Gabriella has her hand up. Gabriella, and then Judith.
Something that impressed me about Reverend Jeff when he first came on board was his talk about communication. And here's how it's going to go down. It's going to be transparent and healthy and not in the shadows. And he read this, I don't know if it's a decree or something that might still be up in the social hall or something, but it really grabbed my attention that day. And I feel like I was so inspired because basically he was saying, keep things out of the shadows and let's be honest. And I feel like he set a tone for a healthy emotional climate, which is a tricky thing in communities. And it kind of speaks to his purity and how Maureen, I was thinking of like the word purity came up when I was listening to Maureen just now. And it came through like it was one of his first Sundays speaking. And it really caught my attention. And I was inspired by that in my last work environment, the work community I was in, that transparency, that healthiness, that openness was not there. In fact, I was trying to search the decree. I was like, Reverend Jeff, he had this down. He had a great way of articulating it, and the community grew. He just made a first impression on me with that, and then I saw that, for old church phrasing, the pews started filling back up again, and I think the way he radiated filled the room, and I just thought that was really inspiring, especially to hear it from a man, about communication, and it's really just taking stuff out of the shadows and keeping it in the light so that we all can feel sanctuary. And I also just want to say, I thought about that word sanctuary all day yesterday after I went to sell for the book sale, and then went to a creek after, and I was thinking about Reverend Jeff's connection to the water and rivers, and there's even a creek behind OCSL, and how I just love that word sanctuary. I get that that's what he was creating, and how we can create that for others. But I just love that I will always associate that word with him, and how we can really create refuge for others with that intention. So that's it.
That's so great, Gabriella. Thank you. Judith, did you have something to share?
Something short, yes. I just go all the way back to when he was candidating. And, everyone that came to speak was, they were all good. And then he was up there, and he did at that point, he talked about nature and rivers. That was part of it. And I said, oh, my ears pricked up. And then he talked about, I think even then he talked about loving to wear Birkenstocks. And it's like, somebody different. And then at the very end, he patted his heart, and he patted his head, and he kind of went around in a circle with his heart. And as he did that, he said, bless you, bless you, bless your hearts. And then I thought, okay, I can vote right now. So, and I haven't been disappointed from the very beginning. It's all been what everyone has said, and I'm right there with that. So thank you. And thanks, Reverend Jeff.
So
I still
great.
feel you.
Well,
Okay.
I have to step out of my role for a second, because there's a story, and I know a number of you have heard it, but I'll never get tired of it. It's one of my favorite Jeff stories, and it embodies a certain thing that we've been poking at and pointing at all morning. When he first came onto the job, and he was in the back room getting ready for the service, there were a handful of us that were involved in the service. And Reverend Jeff said, okay, so how do we start this whole process? And somebody informed him that the way it was always done was at 20 after 10, the officiants would leave the room and process down the center aisle and take their seats for the service. And Jeff's response was, oh, there'll be no processing. I'll never forget him saying those words. He said, so here's what's going to happen. At 20 after, I'm going to go out of here, and I'm going to walk around in the back of the sanctuary. I'm going to say good morning to a bunch of people, and we're all a bunch of grown-ups. We'll all find our way to the seat and start our service. That is Reverend Jeffrey Anderson. Not a pomp bone in his body.
Yeah.
So how we doing? Anybody else? Of course,
Thanks.
We all know that this is an ongoing conversation, and we're only just beginning. If no one else needs to share this morning, thank you all for sticking around and honoring him and honoring this moment. And I guess we're going to turn this over to Zoe to take care of the prayer room.